In total, I set up 6 formations, which occupied 8 full days of my time. Time was tight, and the expenses hurt my wallet, but there was no other way. Since I couldn't pinpoint the exact location where the immortals would descend, casting a wide net was my best chance of catching them. During those 8 days, I barely slept 10 hours in total. I was exhausted. Thankfully, my physical endurance was remarkable. I had originally planned to reserve some time for training, to sharpen my skills in preparation for the fight. But now, only 1 day remained. Deciding to forego the last-minute practice, I resolved to get a good night's rest to prepare myself for the imminent arrival of the immortal. Gazing out over the array points, unease crept into my heart. Dianmu had warned that this time, 2 immortals would descend. Lu Dongbin was here for my head, the other was after the head of the Yangtze River Dragon Maiden. If I managed to successfully take out one of them, I would seek out the Dragon Maiden afterward to ensure she received a proper burial. But could I really just stand by and watch her be beheaded? I wasn't sure. If I saved her, she'd live, but her virtue and karmic merits would be spent. If I didn't, she would die an unthinkable death. Thinking about it pained me deeply. After finishing the last steamed bun, I made my way back to the statue temple. By the time I arrived, night had already fallen. Stifling a yawn, I planned to get some much-needed rest. Just then, someone rushed out, eyes bloodshot, face haggard, clearly sleep-deprived for days. I looked closer, it was that driver. "Young man, where have you been these past few days? Weren't we supposed to meet 3 days later? I'd been waiting 5 days for you. I thought you'd left." He was both frantic and relieved to see me. Smacking my forehead, I remembered. Those 8 hectic days had completely wiped that from my mind. What could I do? Having barely slept myself, I barely had time to think about other things. I asked, "How's your daughter doing now? Tell me everything first." The driver, panicked, rushed to explain, "I did exactly what you told me to, but that very night, my daughter started having unbearable headaches. She couldn't stop vomiting, kept it up for 3 days, only getting worse. Now, she's fallen unconscious." Tears and snot streamed down his face, his worry and fear were unmistakable. Unconscious? I was taken aback. Logically, if there had been a feng shui problem, using the clay figure as a substitute should have started showing results in 3 days. Her limbs should have been regaining movement by now. Instead, her condition had deteriorated further. Could I have made a mistake? If I did, the consequences would be on me. The driver fell to his knees and pleaded, "Young man, my daughter is on the verge of dying. I beg you to come back with me and take another look. Please." Conflicted emotions churned within me, but I helped him to his feet. Stealing a glance at the temple's serene and seemingly watchful statue of Lu Dongbin, I silently prayed that he wouldn't manifest too soon. Sighing, I recalled how I had let my compassion take over 8 days ago. Now, I could only do my best to help him resolve this matter before returning to focus on my original mission. I agreed. "All right, I'll go back with you and take a look." The driver's face lit up with hope. He pulled me into his car, and we sped toward his house. The home was a modest old bungalow with just 2 rooms and a small kitchen. The building was low, so low that children playing on its roof had reportedly fallen off often. The wooden door was ancient, its paint utterly worn away, and in the small yard, a few vegetables were planted. It was clear that he lived frugally, likely saving everything he could for his daughter's treatment. Carefully observing, I noticed no irregularities in the yard's feng shui. The driver opened the door and led me inside. The rooms were simple but clean, free of any foul smells. It was evident he had been taking good care of his daughter. On the bed lay a pale, pained-looking girl, eyes tightly shut. In the mirror across the room, I saw it, the clay figure reflected clearly in the glass. How could that be? I picked up the clay figure. It crumbled to dust at my touch, and my expression darkened. The driver, panicking, asked, "Young man, what's going on?" I carefully examined the girl's limbs. They weren't the withered, weakened limbs of someone long paralyzed. Her arms and legs were full and firm, albeit unnaturally cold and stiff. This wasn't normal, this was no ordinary feng shui problem. I racked my brain but couldn't find an easy explanation. Usually, such situations pointed to malevolent energy or ghostly interference. But there were no traces of Yin energy, no spirits, so why had this girl been paralyzed for so many years? Staring at the girl, I couldn't ignore the aura of a misaligned fate. Her fortune was ill-starred, her lifespan cut unnaturally short. Looking down at the clay fragments on the floor, a sudden thought struck me. I turned to the driver and asked, "Your daughter became paralyzed when she was 3 years old, didn't she?" "Yes," the driver replied, nodding. "Have you ever considered that your daughter may have actually passed away when she was 3? The driver was shocked. "What did you just say?" The girl lying on the bed was unconscious, but her breathing was faint. I stated plainly, judging by her face, she won't live past 3. My daughter's still alive. The driver couldn't believe it. Her face doesn't lie. When she became paralyzed at age 3, were you driving? Yes, it was a few days before the new year. Lots of people were heading home. I drove overnight and didn't get back until the next morning. Low roofs, kids love climbing on them, and they fall. Your daughter, though, didn't just break her arms or legs, she died instantly, I explained. The driver was stunned. That's impossible. My daughter was only 3. How could she climb up to the roof? Little kids are surprisingly strong. Didn't you know? You grow vegetables in your yard, don't you? Did you used to grow any climbing plants? I asked. Yes, we did. Back then, I even built a ladder for them. The vines covered one entire wall. Then that explains it. She grabbed onto the vines, climbed the ladder, and fell, I said. The driver listened with a mix of belief and doubt. But your daughter didn't die fully. She's alive, she can eat, sleep, and cry, but she can't move, I continued. When you came home that day, didn't you find her lying on the ground? You probably thought she was just tired, so you carried her to bed. But when she didn't wake up the next day, you panicked and went looking for Lu Dongbin for help? I asked. Yes. Lu Dongbin heard you. He couldn't bear to see a 3-year-old die, so he extended her life, I explained. The driver was astonished. He helped me? I always thought it didn't work. Your daughter is living on borrowed time. Her body isn't deteriorating, but the grounding energy that entered her body when she died keeps her stuck. It's what's preventing her from standing, I explained further. Lu Dongbin wanted to help remove the grounding energy, but he never got around to it. That's why it's been delayed. I sighed. The driver pleaded with urgency. Can you remove her grounding energy? I hesitated. I was already exhausted and had to face the god's wrath tomorrow, so I couldn't afford to recklessly use any more of my vital energy. Tears streamed down the driver's face. Please, I'm begging you. I finally relented. Come back to me tomorrow night. If I'm still around, I'll help you. If I'm gone, someone else will. The driver sighed as he saw me off. Just before I left, I noticed the girl on the bed had labored breaths, her face gloomy. A jolt of realization hit me. When I worked on crafting the clay figurines earlier, I accidentally took some of her life essence. Driven by instinct, I channeled my yang energy and forcefully expelled the grounding energy, returning the life essence I had inadvertently taken. 10 minutes later, the girl's complexion improved, and the driver was overcome with joy. I was completely drained. I wondered how I would cope, now that my vital energy had been depleted. I told the driver, your daughter will wake up tomorrow morning and be able to move, but take it slow, don't rush it. I'll be going now. As I stepped outside, a mysterious young man appeared silently before me. I froze. He was in his early 20s, ordinary looking, but there was a strange, indescribable familiarity about him. He glanced at the driver's house, a peculiar expression crossing his face. I asked, are you here for the driver? He gave a faint nod. You could say that. I pressed on, are you his friend? He replied, a friend he hasn't met yet. He mentioned something that led me here. Before he could finish his sentence, the driver rushed out. Young man, my daughter woke up. Thank you. Without you, she wouldn't have made it. I owe you everything. The driver knelt before me, refusing to get up. I quickly helped him to stand. Tears of gratitude filled his eyes. I said, there's no need for this. I just did what I could. What matters is that your daughter has woken up. The driver insisted, how can you say that? You gave my daughter a second life. You're like family now. I should call you Godfather. He asked for my name, my contact information, even where I was originally from, saying he'd bring gifts to visit me during the holidays. I quickly deflected. No need for that. I pointed to the young man at the door and said, he says he's your friend and came to see you. The driver looked at the young man with a puzzled expression. A friend? I don't know him. You don't know him? I asked, also confused. The young man glanced around the house and smiled. If you don't know me, that's all right. Maybe I recognized the wrong person. The driver probed further. Are you my daughter's friend? The young man thought for a moment. Something like that. I knew her when she was younger, she's doing all right. The driver turned to me and exclaimed, this young man saved my daughter's life. I'm so thankful for him, such a good person. The young man cast another look in my direction. The driver continued, good people like you deserve a long, healthy life. I wish you longevity and happiness. I forced a bitter smile. I hope so. The young man smiled at me and said, since that's the case, I won't intrude any further. The driver called after him, don't leave. I'll prepare some hearty dishes and drinks tonight. Stay and have a meal with us. Young man, you really shouldn't refuse. If you do, I won't know how else to repay you. Here's the processed content translated with the structure, paragraphs, and formatting preserved as per the original Chinese text. I had planned to rest, but suddenly felt like drinking. If I didn't drink today, I feared I might not have the chance again. Better to drink to my heart's content now, and then properly restore my energy afterward. I agreed. The driver invited the young man. Why don't you join us? You're a guest here, let's have a drink together. The young man walked over, smiling. Haven't had a drink in a while. Since it's such a coincidence, a few drinks wouldn't hurt. The driver quickly went to prepare some snacks, grabbing a few chili peppers and cucumbers before heading into the kitchen. The young man asked me, what should I call you? I made up a surname. Lin. You can just call me Xiaolin. So, Xiaolin, he nodded. I asked him in return, and you? He grinned. I come from a family with 8 siblings. I'm the 4th, so you can call me Lao Si. Alright, Lao Si it is, I said, noting he looked older than me. Lao Si works, he shrugged with a smile. The driver said you saved his daughter? I gave a wry smile. How could I not help? In truth, I'd only acted out of a sudden sense of compassion. If not for that, I normally wouldn't bother with such matters. The young man asked, do you regret it? Regret? If I can do it, I'll stand by it. I shook my head. Well said. Saving a life is a great merit. You've done something virtuous today, and good fortune may follow, he said, smiling. I admire people who take responsibility for their actions. I smiled awkwardly. Since he was here looking for someone, I inquired about his purpose. With drinking ahead, I figured I might as well offer to read his fortune and make a new friend. My boss sent me on a business trip, he explained. What for? If it's convenient, tell me. Maybe I can help. I'm a debt collector. My boss asked me to locate someone who owes money. Do they owe a lot? I asked. Not sure exactly. I just do what my boss tells me. Do you want me to help by doing a fortune reading? I'm a fortune teller, I offered. He laughed. No need, I've already found him and am planning to collect. All the best with that, I said. Just then, the driver returned with dishes for the table, dressed cucumber, stir-fried chili peppers with pork, peanuts, and a large bottle of homemade liquor. We sat down and the driver poured the liquor. The 3 of us toasted and took a sip. The liquor had a spicy kick, but the aftertaste was sweet. It was good stuff. I tried a bite of the chili dish. The flavor was terrific, on par with restaurant fare. The young man, however, reacted differently. After just one sip, he appeared to savor the taste deeply. Then, in one go, he downed the entire glass, leaving both the driver and me stunned. Looks can be deceiving, this guy could really drink. Who would have thought you could handle your liquor so well? The driver laughed, refilling his glass. It's been a long time since I've had this kind of drink. It still tastes just as good, the young man smiled. Then have some more, encouraged the driver. The young man tried some of the food, his face still lingering with satisfaction. This is pretty good. Come on, it's a rare chance. Let's have another drink, the driver said, raising his glass. We toasted again, and the young man drained his glass in one gulp. After a few more drinks, the driver, looking a little tipsy, said he needed to go check on his daughter but would come back to join us later. The young man and I were fine with that. I was starting to feel a little buzzed. Handing over my glass, I said, come on, one more. The young man raised his glass but stopped just before we clinked. He stared at me and asked, you said you're a fortune teller. Let me ask you something. Go ahead, I said, setting my cup down, curious about his question. My boss gave me a task. I should follow his orders, right? He asked. Of course. If your boss pays you, you have to follow orders, I replied without hesitating. That's what I think too. Employees who don't listen to their boss get fired, he nodded. Exactly. You take the paycheck, you follow the rules, I agreed. Exactly. But my boss is complicated and hard to read, he sighed. That's why I always do as he says. Though, I just met the guy who owes the debt. Oh? What's he like? I asked, intrigued. Unexpected, he said. Normally, with my temperament, I'd make sure he paid up immediately. He paused, swirling his glass. My expression shifted. This guy clearly worked decisively, without hesitation. His personality seemed similar to mine. But this guy turned out all right. He even did something for me that I was supposed to handle myself, and he did it perfectly. No faults at all. Now it feels like I owe him. This time, I'm the one caught in the middle. What do you think I should do? I haven't owed anyone a favor in years. Suddenly being indebted like this, it's unsettling, he said, looking at me. I mulled it over and said, "Lao Si, what do you think?" "I don't know yet, which is why I'm asking you." He fixed his gaze on me. After pondering for a while, I said, "The debtor got lucky, he unintentionally helped you." "It wasn't luck, he really helped me," he corrected. "In that case, why not just go ahead and collect the debt?" That thoughts crossed my mind too. He set down his glass, picked up a peanut, and began chewing thoughtfully. This is section 29/118. Please process the following content according to your logic, maintaining the original paragraph structure, line breaks, and overall layout. Only return the processing results. But I don't want to owe him a favor. I want to give him a chance. "All right," I said. "But don't overthink it. This is something that's caught in the middle. Leave it to fate." I pulled out a coin. "You flip it heads, he gets the chance. Tails, we stick to the rules." He pushed the coin back. "That seems pointless. But you're right, leaving it to fate might work." Suddenly, his eyes narrowed. He smiled and said, "I feel like playing chess. Play a game with me?" "Chess?" I was surprised. He set down his wineglass, took out a go board along with the black and white stones, and spread them out. I never thought young people these days still enjoyed playing Go. "Kid, do you want black or white stones?" he asked. I smiled faintly. Back when I was little and smartphones weren't a thing, Zhang Zhoshuan used to keep me in line. She taught me Go, telling me that if I could win just once, she would let me ride her. Basically, she'd kneel down and let me ride on her back. At the time, I was only 4 years old. The idea of pretending to ride a horse seemed fun. Zhang Zhoshuan explained the rules of Go, then started playing matches with me often. Strangely, no matter how many times we played, Zhang Zhoshuan always managed to beat me just by a sliver. I was on the verge of tears from losing, but she'd just look at me with a laugh. Finally, one time, I won. She got on her knees on the bed and carried me on her back while I clung to her neck, crawling around the bed. It was so much fun. She doted on me a lot back then. During that time, she hadn't yet taught me fortune-telling and face reading. We mostly just played Go. I estimate we played thousands of games. By the time I was 12, I suddenly wanted to play again, but Zhang Zhoshuan told me that even if I won, there'd be no more riding horses. I was too grown up for that. I froze at her words, but the skills of Go had already become second nature to me. I picked up the white stones. The young man said, "You should take black. I'm older than you." "All right." I took the black stones and made the first move. He followed up with a white stone. His playstyle was seasoned, each stone placed with precision. His moves were smooth and deliberate. It seemed like he practiced Go every day. By the 10th move, the pressure was mounting. Every stone he dropped carried a weight, almost like an invisible force pressing down on me. This guy was good. Probably as skilled as Zhang Zhoshuan. "Shaolin, if you keep playing this way, you'll lose," he said, grabbing a bite of food. "Let me think about it." I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself, attempting to analyze the game using the methods Zhang Zhoshuan had taught me. It reminded me of the many times she had effortlessly outplayed me. The young man began to think hard, too, and the tension in the air grew thick. It's clear that Zhang Zhoshuan's skill had been exceptional. By his 10th move, the young man put down his chopsticks and asked, "Who taught you how to play?" "My master." "Who is it?" "You wouldn't know her. Her name is Zhang Zhoshuan." He fell silent, gazing at the board. Then he praised my gameplay, admitting that opponents like me were rare. Though he was enjoying the challenge, he assured me he wouldn't lose easily. We sparred for an entire hour, all while his driver snoozed noisily nearby, having passed out drunk. The game was still fiercely contested, nearing its end. He placed a stone, and I felt a sudden jolt in my chest as my eyes lit up. I blurted out, "What a great move." The young man sighed. "The boss has already spoken, there shouldn't be any surprises." And with that, he declared my loss. I chuckled. His move had cornered me completely, flawless. It turned out he was even better at Go than I expected. "I've already made my decision. I'll respect the boss and carry on collecting debts," he said. I nodded. He raised his glass, his tone becoming more serious. "Come on, I'll toast you. After this, there's something I want to say." "All right." Just as we were about to clink glasses, I glanced at the corner of the board and suddenly said, "Hold on a second, Lao Si." I picked up a black stone and made another move. That move sealed the game. He froze, his expression shifting from confusion to surprise, eventually settling into a look of realization and deep admiration. In just a few seconds, his emotions seemed to roller coaster. "Wow. Brilliant move. Such a critical play. I've lost." The young man admitted his defeat with respect. I smiled faintly and exhaled a soft breath. That last move had been a spur-of-the-moment idea, surprisingly turning the tables entirely. Why didn't I see that move? Tell me, how did you come up with it? He asked, his curiosity genuine. I gave a wry smile and told him it was pure coincidence, mostly luck. Luck? Then your instinct for go is remarkable. When instinct strikes, it's like the hand of fate guiding your stones. Your master must have taught you a great deal. He was earnest with his praise. Seeing his enthusiasm, I suggested another game since we still had time. For me, a rare chance to play Go in peace was a treat, no grudges, no walking on eggshells. Your instinct at this game surpasses mine. If we play again, my chances of winning aren't great, he said, shaking his head before unexpectedly adding something that startled me. Maybe fate played a role in this game, too. I'm genuinely glad you won. He congratulated me. I felt a bit puzzled but just credited it to sheer luck. This must be the result of good fortune smiling upon you. You've been complimenting me, so let's keep drinking. I raised my glass enthusiastically. He also brought his over, and we clinked glasses. I took a big sip, but he downed his entire drink in one go. As I reached to pour more wine, thinking we wouldn't leave until we were hammered, he shook his head, covered his glass, and stood up, saying, "That's enough for today. I have to meet with a colleague." "Your colleague's here to help you collect debts too?" I asked out of curiosity. "Yeah, he went to look for someone else," he replied casually. "Your colleague must be pretty capable. For your boss to send the two of you out on this trip, both of you must be reliable. Come on, let's drink a little more," I invited. He loves stirring up trouble and has a weakness for women. "I have to keep an eye on him to make sure he doesn't mess things up this time," the young man said helplessly. I nodded, expressing my understanding. Then he added, "Shaolin, winning or losing in this game of chess is only temporary, you know?" "I understand," I smiled. "Wins and losses in chess are a constant cycle. Today, I narrowly won, but I could just as easily lose the next game." While it was clear his skills surpassed mine, I wasn't sure if they were superior to Zhang Jiuxian's. "I lost, but that doesn't mean I won't challenge you again. Playing chess, well, it's not always a matter of choice." His eyes carried a tinge of helplessness. "But you gave me such a great experience. I hadn't felt this exhilarated in ages. Until next time, then," he concluded, lifted the wine bottle to take a big swig, and turned to walk away into the distance. Who would have thought I'd make a new friend and a kindred spirit on this trip? Life's too short not to enjoy it. Yes. Wonderful. Ha ha. His laughter was bold and hearty, gradually fading as he disappeared into the dark night. I sat there stunned, staring at the chessboard on the table. "Old four, you left your chess behind," I called after him. "Keep it, we'll meet again." His voice echoed from afar, and the darkness swallowed his figure whole. Returning to my senses, I gazed once more at the chessboard. Sharing drinks with him just now felt so dreamlike, so surreal. But after he left, I found an odd sense of clarity. The headache from drinking reminded me it wasn't a dream. I had indeed met someone named Old Four tonight. I sat back down, intending to finish my glass of wine before heading to rest at the temple. But as soon as I took a sip, Lei Jiju's voice rang out, "Sir, Old Four's movements were lightning fast." They were fast, yes, but I observed closely. "He's just an ordinary person," I replied without much thought. "Still, something about him seems off. Although honestly, he didn't seem malicious," Lei Jiju remarked. "It doesn't matter. I had fun back there," I murmured, finishing my wine in one gulp. As I went to pack up the chess pieces, my gaze froze. It seemed that at some point, the black and white stones had rearranged themselves into the character, Huan, meaning slow or hold. I froze in confusion. Hold back from what? I pondered aloud, troubled. Lei Jiju's tone grew serious. "Sir, he's no ordinary person." "True. An ordinary person couldn't move chess pieces remotely right under my nose," I muttered, a sinking realization dawning on me. Hastily, I packed up the chess pieces and dashed out in pursuit. But even after searching high and low, there was no trace of him anywhere. It was as though Old Four had vanished into thin air. His speed, though. It made me pinpoint one possible location. "Sir, let's check out the temple ahead," Lei Jiju suggested. Nodding, I sprinted toward the temple of the divine statue. Upon arrival, I found the array I had set up there was perfectly intact, unchanged from when I left, not a shred of abnormal energy. I settled down, deciding to grab some rest before morning arrived. The hours passed, and when I finally woke, the temple remained silent and untouched. I kept a close watch, waiting the entire day, until late afternoon, but everything stayed eerily calm. The quiet gnawed my patience, leaving an itch I couldn't scratch. Drawing out the Lei Jiju sword, I finally said, "Go check the other 5 array points. If you find anything unusual, report back immediately." "Understood." Lei Jiju shot off like an arrow, moving swift as ever. Less than 5 minutes later, she returned. What's the status of the other arrays? Any anomalies? I asked anxiously. None, Lei Jiju replied. My gaze turned to the Lu Dongbin statue inside the temple, and suddenly, something struck me. Today marked the very time that the Lady of Lightning Mother had mentioned, yet the entire day had passed with no results. Sir, do you think Lu Dongbin returned secretly last night? Lei Jiju lowered her voice. I stared at her. It's possible, though it's odd. Could it be that he? Perhaps last night's events moved him, and he chose to spare you, if only for now. Good deeds bring good rewards, after all, Lei Jiju said. I was momentarily speechless. The experiences of the previous night still felt like a dream that hadn't fully grounded itself in reality. A creeping suspicion filled my mind. Was it truly him? Since arriving here, I'd barely paused for breath, planning ambitiously to ambush him, yet things had unfolded in the most unpredictable ways. The arrays I meticulously arranged had proved utterly useless. Do you think he'll come back to find me? Lei Jiju asked. He will. If it really was him last night, there's no doubt he'll come back to me. It's beyond his control, I answered. The memory of the character resurfaced in my thoughts. What was he buying time for? Fixing my eyes on the Lu Dongbin statue once more, I muttered softly, among the 8 immortals, you rank 4th. Old 4, are you truly him? The statue remained perfectly still, but its calm gaze seemed to hold something untold. I snapped back to attention, gripping the lightning-struck bamboo sword and urging her to leave. Sir, are you not planning to wait for him? Lightning-struck bamboo asked. No, I'm done waiting. He said his colleague would cause trouble and is lustful. I'm worried about the Yangtze Dragon Maiden's safety. If it was really him last night, that colleague might already be close to finding her, I replied. Perhaps right at this moment, another person has already captured the Yangtze Dragon Maiden. Would he falter, captivated by her beauty, before striking her head? I thought I would be alive to witness the Dragon Maiden's decapitation, but things did not go as I expected. I not only survived but remained completely unharmed. This shook me to the core, leaving me afraid to think too deeply. The lightning-struck bamboo sword glimmered with a golden green light, propelling us into the sky. In the quiet of the night, though unseen by others, I faintly heard gasps of amazement through my acute hearing. I ignored them. With lightning-struck bamboo's cultivation level, we soared through clouds effortlessly. Sir, do you know where the Dragon Maiden is now? Asked lightning-struck bamboo. I do. Before leaving, Fourth left the word buffer. I used it to determine a general location, I said, pointing in a direction. The Yangtze Dragon Maiden was taken away by her father. Cold and indifferent as he is, I figured he'd bring her home. I suspected he wasn't saving her but rather trying to avoid being implicated by her situation. He likely planned to kill her himself, to tend to her wounds before personally handing her over to immortals to be executed. To him, this might even count as a form of virtue. Trading his daughter's life for virtue, it's an outrage against heaven. Hurry up, lightning-struck bamboo. I urged her. She sped up, cutting swiftly through the clouds. Fixing my gaze on the path ahead, I reflected on how I had thought I could assassinate Lu Dongbin, but I failed. However, the battle of divine retaliation wasn't over. I, Long Shiba, may yet rage for a beauty. After 3 hours of flying, the air began to taste salty. We were nearing the coast. The Yangtze Dragon Maiden's parents were a union of a demon and a human. Naturally, her father was a dragon. Her father's lair wasn't on land or in the rivers, it was in the sea. This was the Bohai Sea. My master had told me about the 4 dragon kings of the 4 seas. But the Yangtze Dragon Maiden's father's lair was far from the Bohai Dragon King's domain. After years of cultivating here, he had luckily transcended a tribulation to become a dragon. His lair was close to the shore. Despite the saying, 2 tigers cannot share one mountain, the Bohai Dragon King was magnanimous and did not expel him. Obviously, the Dragon Maiden's father knew his place. He merely used this location as his lair and didn't interfere with matters concerning the Bohai Sea. Lightning-struck bamboo carried me to the shoreline. Looking out to the distant sea, the sky was gloomy and overcast, a sign of impending chaos. I immediately heightened my senses, suspecting another deity had descended, though I wasn't sure if they had reached this place yet. Not daring to delay, I tightened my hold on lightning-struck bamboo and soared toward the ocean. It was my first time seeing the sea. The crashing, roaring waves agitated my nerves. Sir, do you think the Dragon Maiden's father will save her? Lightning-struck bamboo asked. He's despised her since she was young. Do you think he'd risk saving her? I replied confidently. Then why did he take her away last time? Lightning-struck bamboo pressed. What do you mean? After ignoring her for so many years, when his daughter is on the verge of death, he suddenly has a conscience and brings her home to heal her? It's just him shouldering his responsibility, trying to complete his life, I said coldly. After thousands of years of indifference, showing up at her deathbed? A belated conscience is worth less than dirt. Lightning-struck bamboo fell silent. I continued, or maybe he's trying to exploit her for her final ounce of value. If someone's overly attentive for no reason, they're either scheming or guilty. If he hasn't appeared for centuries, then suddenly shows up, it can't be for any good. The thought that he could be using her broke my heart, his cold indifference cutting deeper than anything. Lightning-struck bamboo sighed. What kind of father is that? That's exactly why the dragon maiden doesn't want to see him, I remarked, guilt stirring within me. I couldn't help but wonder how the dragon maiden would react upon seeing me again. In the distance, a small island appeared, and I signaled to lightning-struck bamboo to slow down. She immediately reduced her speed. The island was invisible to ordinary people. I had found it by deciphering the word buffer. Moving silently, lightning-struck bamboo brought me ashore. I restrained my aura, clutching the lightning-struck bamboo sword as I made my way toward the island's center. I'd only taken a few steps when I sensed a powerful presence approaching. My nerves instantly tightened. Was it that deity? Quickly, I ducked behind a boulder. Circulating my inner core, I concealed my demonic energy, camouflaging myself as lifeless as stone. Though my demonic energy was potent, my ability to suppress it was stronger. Within 30 seconds, splashes of water erupted in the distance. A man, appearing around 30 years old, rapidly drew near. His hands were clasped behind his back, his feet gliding over waves that carried him effortlessly, a smooth, practiced motion. When I saw him, I quietly let out a sigh of relief. He wasn't an immortal. His demonic energy was notable, but his cultivation was weak, a half-formed dragon. Judging by his appearance, he might be a son of the Bohai Dragon King. His shining forehead revealed prestige befitting a powerful family in the area. However, his face betrayed poor aptitude, a sinister nature, and a life of indulgence, a classic wastrel. It wasn't surprising. The Bohai Dragon King likely spoiled him rotten, turning him into a good-for-nothing. He didn't notice me, he didn't even glance my way, his cultivation truly lacking. Why had he come? His dark, grim expression made his ill intentions clear. The news of the Yangtze River Dragon Maiden's beheading had long spread. As the son of the Bohai Dragon King, he surely had heard of it. Many steered clear, but he came anyway. Was he here to save the Dragon Maiden? Or to spy on the spectacle? Just like ancient executions, where crowds of onlookers gathered. No, he was not here for a noble cause, either a schemer or a thief. Then, I saw the young man step ashore, shouting loudly, "Uncle, I am the third prince of Bohai. I came here today especially to visit." I stared at him, and in less than 10 seconds, the Dragon Maiden's father flew out from the center of the island, landing before the third prince. What made me smirk coldly was the fact that his previously inflicted wound had entirely healed, and he hadn't even noticed me. This made me let out a small sigh of relief. Clearly, my aura was unlike theirs. Instinctively, I glanced toward the center of the island. The Yangtze River Dragon Maiden should still be there, right? Was she awake yet? "What brings you here this time?" the Dragon Maiden's father asked the third prince. "Weren't you the one who asked me to come?" the third prince replied with a grin. "I believe I asked your father to come, didn't I?" The Dragon Maiden's father's expression remained unchanged. "What difference does it make if it's me or him?" The third prince seemed indifferent, his gaze already fixed on the center of the island. "Your daughter's awake, isn't she?" "Yes." "Then don't waste time. I'm going in to see her right now." The third prince eagerly rubbed his hands. Only then did I realize his true intent. He wanted to exploit the Yangtze River Dragon Maiden's power, to take advantage of her and seize the opportunity to ascend to full dragon form. He was unskilled and had stalled at the level of a half-dragon, seeking a shortcut. Outrage boiled within me. The Yangtze Dragon Maiden was on the brink of death, and he wanted to ruin her dignity? Treating her as a mere tool for his own gain? The Dragon Maiden's father stopped him. "You know as well as I do that my daughter hasn't got much time left. Exactly why I don't want to waste it. If she can help me ascend to dragon form, her death would be worthwhile." The third prince pushed past him, excitement gleaming as he headed inward. "Wait a moment." The Dragon Maiden's father frowned and blocked him once more. The third prince's excitement faded as irritation surfaced. "Uncle, what do you mean by this? I summoned your father to save my daughter, not for you to claim her." The Dragon Maiden's father retorted coldly. I froze. He truly intended to save the Yangtze River Dragon Maiden? These words from her otherwise seemingly indifferent father left me stunned and incredulous. Could his taking her away have hidden motives? The third prince impatiently nodded. "Father did say he'd save her, but only if I first ascend to full dragon form." Otherwise, why would he help her? How is he going to save her if he isn't even here yet? The Dragon Maiden's father shot back. He's on his way. I simply arrived first. You know as well as I do only my father can save her, the third prince said arrogantly. Then we'll wait for him to arrive, the Dragon Maiden's father replied firmly. The third prince scowled, displeased. I call you uncle, and you think it gives you authority? Don't test my patience. Expressionless, the Dragon Maiden's father stated, go back and let your father come. Stop right there. I'll ask you one last time, are you letting me in or not? The third prince sneered. No. Humph. Have you forgotten this is my father's domain? I've already cast you out, the Dragon Maiden's father barked, his tone icy. Furious, the third prince roared, how dare you? The Dragon Maiden's father held his ground. Is your father not coming? The third prince sneered. Are you truly that foolish? Your daughter committed a capital crime. It was the Jade Emperor himself who passed judgment. Who can save her? Leave, the Dragon Maiden's father roared, his voice filled with fury. For a moment, I caught a flicker of pain and helplessness on his face. The third prince mocked coldly, no one can save her. Her execution is imminent. Why not let me have my way with her first? At worst, my father can compensate with divine energy afterward. It's not like you care about anything beyond benefits, right? Blocking me like this, what an act. As he laughed sinisterly, the Dragon Maiden's father's killing intent surged, but he suppressed it with evident difficulty. Get out! Get out? The third prince sneered arrogantly. Listen carefully, an immortal has already arrived. But first, he's meeting my father. He'll be here soon to execute your daughter. She has, at best, 30 minutes to live. The Dragon Maiden's father's expression grew grim. However, if my father simply says the word, she could live 1 or 2 days longer. It all depends on how cooperative you are. The third prince grinned triumphantly. Smart decision. Once I'm finished with her, you'll definitely have rewards coming your way. As he prepared to enter, to my distress, the Dragon Maiden's father did not stop him. My heart seized. Clutching the bamboo lightning sword tightly, I readied myself to leap out from behind the stone. But then, the Dragon Maiden's father blocked me instead. The third prince's face darkened. You lowly mutt, still standing in my way? This is your last warning. The Dragon Maiden's father stared at him, unmoving. Seething, the third prince spun around and bellowed into the distance, Father! This mutt dares defy me! A solemn, commanding voice echoed from afar. Dragon, I'm giving you 2 choices. Let my son pass, or I'll come deal with it myself. The Dragon Maiden's father's face was filled with anger and frustration. Dragon King, don't you keep your word? You promised to save my daughter, yet here you are going back on it, taking advantage of her plight. This is the content of section 33 out of 118. Following my logical framework, I have processed this content while maintaining the original paragraph structure, line breaks, and overall layout. Below is the processed result. Brazen fool. You've cultivated for thousands of years and still don't understand the rules? When the Jade Emperor decides someone must die, no one can save them. Your daughter is doomed. The voice was both authoritative and chillingly cold. Before her death, she can at least help my son enhance his cultivation. That's her final value. The father of the Dragon Maiden looked completely despondent, mumbling, is there truly no one on earth who can save my daughter? Who can? His eyes darted about, only to sink deeper into despair. Seeing him in such a state, my eyes flickered. It seemed he still had a trace of conscience, much better than my cold-hearted father. But who could save the Yangtze River Dragon Maiden? Even I wasn't sure. The third prince insisted on entering, but the Dragon Maiden's father continued to block him, his voice growing angrier. The tension between the two rose sharply. If the third prince were truly capable of handling the Dragon Maiden's father, he would have acted already. Seizing the brief lull, I began taking action. I quickly started setting up the formation. The third prince had just mentioned that the divine being would soon be arriving, though was currently occupied with the Bohai Dragon King. In other words, the god would be here shortly. Time was running out. After finishing the formation, I decided to consult the Yangtze River Dragon Maiden. If she chose not to resist, unwilling to abandon the karma accumulated over thousands of years, I'd at least prepare her remains. But if she decided to fight back, the formation would immediately activate to trap that divine being. I scanned the island, selecting the key points for the formation. Quietly slipping out from behind the stone I'd been hiding behind, I dashed off to complete the setup at full speed. The island wasn't large, so it took me only 10 minutes to finish the array. On the surface, the formation appeared unremarkable, just like the one used to deal with Lu Dongbin. Ready to activate at any moment. This was the brilliance of Zhang Baishuo's top 10 ultimate formations. While setting up the array, I noticed a large structure at the center, not built from wood but a giant seashell. It exuded a peculiar and imposing presence. The Yangtze River Dragon Maiden must have been inside. I hesitated about whether I should sneak in while the two were still arguing, but decided instead to wait for the Dragon Maiden to make her choice. So, I quietly retreated behind the stone once again. At this moment, the third prince, now completely enraged, shouted curses at the Dragon Maiden's father, demanding he move aside or face the consequences. Neither of them had noticed my brief absence, much less suspected my presence. The Dragon Maiden's father continued blocking the way, refusing to budge. Furious, the third prince exclaimed toward the Bohai Dragon King, "Father, this fool just won't listen. Bring the Divine One here already. I want to see how much longer he'll act tough." The Bohai Dragon King's voice echoed again. It seemed directed at someone else. "Brotherly, my son's abilities are limited. He can't even handle a single woman. This is humiliating, and I hate to waste your kind efforts. Could I trouble you to step in yourself? Brotherly?" My brows furrowed as doubt crept into my heart. Was there truly a god with the surname Lee? The sound of someone guzzling alcohol echoed loudly, followed by the empty clink of a finished drink. Then, a strange, deep voice spoke, slow and deliberate. "No issue at all. I'll head there myself. Once I step in, who'd dare disobey? Leaving room for your son is just extending him a courtesy. Rest assured, he'll succeed in his cultivation today." Nearby, a soft female voice chimed in. "My dear, your wound's just healed. Rest a moment. Once this matter's wrapped up, we can enjoy each other's company. Dragon King, hold on, I'll be right over." Before the words finished fading, a sharp sound like an explosion of void echoed across the sky. From the distance, a man appeared, beard covering his face and his complexion ruddy from drink. He soared in at incredible speed, clad in a black robe exuding a chilling presence. In his hand glinted a golden dragon blade, a ceremonial sword meant for beheading the Yangtze River Dragon Maiden. Almost instantaneously, he arrived above the island. His enormous figure towered like a mountain. His very step upon the ground seemed poised to crush the entire island beneath its weight. The surrounding air grew stiflingly heavy, making it hard even to breathe. Was this truly one of the gods of heaven? Hidden behind the rock, I pushed my inner core to its limit, ensuring I stayed perfectly concealed. This was no time for premature exposure, it could ruin any chance of a sneak attack. Wait, who was this man? With a surname like Lee, could he be the troublemaking, lecherous colleague the young immortal had mentioned? Yet his aura was completely different. While one seemed gentle and scholarly, this one radiated dominance and unrestrained lust. "Third Prince, you're here?" As soon as this man arrived, the third prince's face lit up with eagerness. Meanwhile, the Dragon Maiden's father's expression darkened with despair. "Were you the one stopping my nephew from getting in?" The god lazily lowered his gaze, a burst of immense aura rippling outward. The ground beneath the Dragon Maiden's father began cracking and collapsing on a vast scale. "Do you know who I am?" the divine being asked. "I do," the father replied firmly. "Then choose wisely, will you obediently allow my nephew through, or should I send you straight into oblivion?" Li Qi. "If you want to kill my daughter, then kill her. But I will never stand silent for this insult." The Dragon Maiden's father gritted his teeth. "Wrong answer." The god sneered coldly, releasing an even heavier wave of force. The air distorted, and like a mountain crashing down, the weight slammed into the father, sending his entire body sinking deep into the earth. My heart pounded in shock while the third prince smirked smugly. "You wouldn't listen. Now you'll face the consequences." The divine being stepped through the void, steadily applying pressure until the Dragon Maiden's father was fully buried in the ground, leaving only the mark of a terrifying foot-shaped crater. "No one's blocking your way now. Go on." "In 10 minutes, I will execute the Jade Emperor's decree and take her head," the god said casually. The third prince eagerly readied himself for action, only to be interrupted by the celestial immortal. "No need to go, she's coming out on her own." I gazed toward the center of the island and saw a woman in a pure white gown emerge slowly. It was the Dragon Maiden of the Yangtze. Her expression was emotionless, her eyes sharp as swords, exuding an ethereal elegance that was accentuated by the white attire. Seeing her, I felt both awe and relief because her energy had recovered significantly, and her cultivation had clearly advanced. Yet, as I surveyed the situation, an ineffable sense of regret welled within me. She was once a Dragon King, achieving great renown. With her cultivation level now, ascension to immortality should have only been a matter of time. But who could have predicted such calamity would strike, severing her celestial path so mercilessly? Today, what path will she choose? At this moment, she stood utterly fearless, a stark contrast to the cautious demeanor her father displayed when facing the gods. Her father was terrified, too paralyzed to act. But she, when confronted with the gods above, carried herself without an ounce of fear, her steps resolute as she approached. The third prince's eyes lit up the moment he laid sight upon the dragon maiden of the Yangtze, his face brimming with excitement, the look of a spoiled wastrel discovering treasure. It's her. Before, when you were still the dragon king of the Yangtze, I had to hold back out of respect. But now you're nothing more than a condemned criminal, so why not let me take advantage of this? The third prince lunged at her, a ravenous wolf intent on ending her here and now. The dragon maiden's calm eyes glimmered like an unbroken mirror. If I'm already a criminal, then come be the first to fall beneath me. She raised a pale, radiant hand. At that instant, an invisible force stopped the third prince mid-charge. The third prince froze in confusion, looking skyward at the celestial immortal. Uncle Li, why are you stopping me? The immortal's already flushed face reddened even further, and his eyes bulged as he stared fixedly at the dragon maiden of the Yangtze, struck by her unparalleled beauty. My heart sank, so it was true. He was just as lustful as the rumors suggested. Get back! The immortal wiped his mouth and waved off the third prince. The third prince was bewildered. Uncle Li, weren't you telling me to use her so I could advance to a full-fledged dragon body? Now you're telling me to back off? I want her, the immortal declared bluntly. The third prince was stunned. Uncle Li, what did you just say? Can't you see how beautiful she is? I won't let you get your hands on her. I'll help you find another dragon maiden sometime in the future, the immortal replied, shaking his head. The third prince stood dumbfounded, like a spoiled child who had just lost his favorite toy. But Uncle Li, I saw her first. The celestial immortal, eyes gleaming with lechery, continued to ogle the dragon maiden. You've committed a grave crime, and the Jade Emperor has ordered me to descend and execute you. But how about this? I'll let you live a few more days, on the condition that you spend 3 days and 3 nights with me. The dragon maiden stared coldly at him and declared resolutely, I have no interest in living longer. Go ahead, behead me now. Her words left me momentarily stunned, my emotions tangled in a complex web. She had chosen not to compromise. And yet, her decision made perfect sense. After all, there is reincarnation. Who would willingly abandon thousands of years' worth of accumulated karmic virtue? But was I simply going to stand silent, watching this unfold? My thoughts spiraled back to her former glorious Dragon King, her soaring cultivation levels, and the near certainty of attaining immortality, had fate not intervened with such a cruel hand. But here, today, she stands differently. Her choice remains her own. At this moment, she is fearless. I was stunned, emotions swirling within me. The dragon maiden of the Yangtze River chose compromise, but I could understand her decision. After all, she still had her next life waiting. The 1,000 years of merits she cultivated in this life were not something one could abandon lightly. But could I simply stand by and watch as her head rolled to the ground? The immortal smiled. No, I refuse to let you die so quickly. A beauty like you is rare, even in the heavens. The Jade Emperor ordered me to execute you, and I will obey. But before that, I'll enjoy myself. Consider this perfectly fulfilling his decree. He descended from the sky with a smug grin. The dragon maiden narrowed her eyes and asked, Long 18, is he already? Him? You're still hoping he'll live? Foolish. Lu Dongbin, who descended with me to carry out the Jade Emperor's edict, has already acted. That wretch has no chance of survival. The immortal sneered. Suddenly, light burst from the dragon maiden's body. The immortal sneered again. Oh? Are you planning to defy the decree? Don't say I didn't warn you. Your millennia of cultivation will be utterly destroyed. I'm not resisting the decree. I want to find him. Once I see that he's alive, I'll return to face the decree. She soared skyward. The immortal flashed in front of her, blocking her path. If you escape, I'll be humiliated. Move. Anyone who blocks me dies. Light radiated fiercely from her, icy and unyielding. She swiftly evaded him, heading straight for me. At that moment, a voice sounded from behind the rocks. Dragon Maiden, you don't need to search for me. I'm right here. Hearing the voice, she froze, a glimmer of light flashing in her eyes. I stepped out from behind the rocks, meeting her gaze. The coldness on her face gradually melted away, revealing a rare, subtle smile as radiant as a celestial being. How are you? Her voice was soft, tinged with delight. I'm fine. I was surprised she didn't blame me. Could it be she had only just awakened and hadn't encountered the father she loathed? Whom? We nodded at each other, our gazes continuing to lock. In this situation, I had no choice but to step forward. The immortal clearly intended to force the dragon maiden of the Yangtze. If she truly left to find me, he would show no mercy. The third prince looked at me, stunned, as if he couldn't believe it. Who are you? How long have you been hiding there? Speak up. Even the immortal fixed his gaze on me, his face full of surprise, not because I had been hiding, but for another reason. Huh, you're Long 18? That can't be right. Lu Dongbin and I descended together under the Jade Emperor's orders. Knowing his temperament, you should have died long ago. You were likely executed yesterday at the latest. How are you still alive? Did Lu Dongbin fail to find you? That's even more impossible. Lu Dongbin, what are you up to? I always knew you couldn't handle your liquor. Did drinking mess things up? As he spoke, the confusion on his face deepened. Third prince, is he also sentenced to execution? The third prince asked. Yes. The immortal nodded. So he's just another condemned criminal. The third prince mocked, glaring at me. Your father is the Dragon King of the Yellow River, right? Let me tell you, even your father has to bow respectfully before my father. You know what you ought to do now, don't you? He spoke smugly, as if expecting me to crumble under the weight of my status and kneel obediently. But I ignored him, as well as the immortal. I strode toward the dragon maiden of the Yangtze. She stood still, waiting for me. At that moment, neither the third prince nor the immortal mattered to her. Our gazes locked, and it felt as if the entire world had narrowed to just the two of us. I only have one question for you, I began. Ask away. What do you intend to do? I asked directly. I wanted to respect her decision. After all, if she chose to walk this path with me, it would entail unimaginable suffering and hardship. The dragon maiden's eyes flickered subtly before she uttered words that left me stunned. I'll follow your lead. I was dumbfounded and hurriedly said, don't joke around. This isn't something I can decide. This is your life. You need to make the choice yourself. If you choose to obey the decree, I'll quietly ensure you're properly laid to rest, free from torment. Her next question, however, caught me off guard. Does it hurt to be decapitated? The calm way she asked left me surprised. I don't know. And if I don't follow the decree, she asked again. Then, I hesitated before responding, your thousands of years of merits will vanish in an instant, and you'll be hunted endlessly by heavenly tribulations. You won't even have time to catch your breath. She wasn't like me, who could simply dissipate at the age of 18. She had cultivated for thousands of years, building everything up from scratch. I couldn't bear the thought of her throwing it all away. Yeah, constantly fleeing does sound miserable. She molded over, her eyes suddenly filled with resolve. So, do you want me to die? Of course not, I replied, shaking my head. But your thousands of years of merits. I wanted to support her, stay by her side as her aide, and continue pursuing enlightenment until she became a true dragon. But the circumstances wouldn't allow it. The blade hung over both our necks. Then I know what I'll choose, she said. I exhaled a sigh of relief, but my heart was heavy with conflicting emotions. It seemed her decision was to accept her fate, reincarnate, and carry her cultivation and merits into the next life. Perhaps this was for the best. At least this way, there was still hope for her. Perhaps in the next life, I could see her grow up, personally teach her a few phrases, and hear her call me brother a few times. I choose to defy the decree. She suddenly added. I was stunned. Dragon Maiden, what did you say? I couldn't believe it. She had been crafting me protective armor, seeking hidden talismans, a posture that seemed to be preparing for her execution. And now, she takes this stance? You're giving up your millennia of cultivation? I asked. I don't need it. What about the karmic merit from those millennia? I don't want it. What about the chance to ascend and become an immortal? Not interested. I froze. Why? You don't want me to die. How could I let you down? She said softly. I was astounded. That's it? You changed your mind because of that? No, she said, getting beheaded hurts. I'm afraid of pain. Our eyes met again, and her gaze was tender. I couldn't comprehend it. Why such a sudden decision? As I stood there bewildered, the celestial deity let out a cold sneer. Did I hear wrong? You dare defy the decree? His expression grew excited. This should be entertaining. Allow me to educate you. The dragon maiden of the Yangtze gave him a mere glance, said nothing, then struck directly. With a flick of her finger, golden claw-like streaks burst from her fair fingertips, hurtling toward the celestial with lightning speed. The celestial sneered, not even bothering to move his saber. He merely waved it casually. The golden streaks exploded against him, as if colliding with a steel wall, resounding with a series of metallic blasts. How bold! I like that, he taunted. Before your head rolls, I'll make sure to claim you for myself. Suddenly, he teleported. Though 30 meters away moments ago, he now appeared directly in front of the Dragon Maiden, reaching out to grab her. "Don't worry, I won't hurt you until I've had my way. Be good and cooperate." He smirked with confidence, sure that this grab would succeed. Unexpectedly, the Dragon Maiden's figure blurred, and his hand caught nothing but air. The Celestial stood there, stunned. 10 meters away, the Dragon Maiden reappeared. "So you're just a projection of your true form." The Celestial snorted. "And what of it? Garbage from the mortal realm like you isn't worthy of my real presence. Even if I'm just a projection, you still can't escape my grasp." As he prepared to act again, I interjected. "We, the mortals, huh? If you're so far above us, then tell me, how do you plan to break this formation?" I pulled out an array flag, and with a wave, unusual phenomena erupted across all directions. 8 points around the island shimmered with spiritual light, each a different color, as beams rapidly converged to form a barrier. The 8 beams shot up into the sky, fusing after 3 seconds to form an enormous protective array. The formation enveloped the entire island, trapping the Celestial and the third prince within. Tightly sealed, isolating everything. This was one of Zhang Baishuo's self-created masterpieces, an extraordinary formation of unprecedented power. The Celestial's expression shifted slightly. The third prince stood dumbfounded, astonished that such a formation had already been put in place. "Uncle Li, what kind of formation is this? Why didn't I notice it?" the third prince murmured, his confidence faltering. "Why are you panicking?" the Celestial rebuked coldly. The third prince blushed, visibly trying to steady himself. The Dragon Maiden's eyes flickered as she looked up, her gaze deepened. The Celestial, now intrigued, surveyed his surroundings. "Interesting. This formation is rare. It borrows from the 5 elements yet is crafted with precision. Even celestial formations aren't this elegant. Who would have thought the mortal realm would possess something like this?" "Very well," he chuckled. "Let's see how long this can hold." Saying this, he casually struck out. The air rippled as a deafening boom resounded. An invisible force collided with the barrier as if a boulder were crashing into a wall. The barrier trembled violently. Yet, it remained wholly unscathed. The Celestial's expression darkened. I let out a quiet sigh of relief. These celestial beings possess monstrous power, but the formation I activated was one of the top 10 ultimate arrays, the Tyene formation. This formation is non-offensive by design. Its hallmark is adaptability. The greater the force applied, the stronger its response. It neutralizes brute power with unyielding resilience, focusing on defense above all. That last blow was entirely nullified, like striking a pillow of clouds, the power simply dissipated into nothingness. In other words, brute force alone would never break this formation. And the formation carried a self-destruct mechanism. The Celestial sneered again. "Amusing. I've never seen this array before. It seems that talent does occasionally appear among mortals. You came prepared, I see? And your plan is to rely on this formation to counter me?" His mockery was palpable. Inside my pocket, my hand gripped the Thunderstrike bamboo sword. To face beings like him, dragging things out was not an option. Only our strongest measures could yield success. If we missed the opportunity, it wouldn't be just our heads that fell. The Dragon Maiden had already begun adjusting her energy. The Celestial stretched leisurely, almost amused. "It's rare for this god to descend to the mortal world. Let me warm up first." As he spoke, he flung his saber high into the air. Clearly, he considered using a weapon against mortals like us as an insult to his standing. In other words, the Dragon Maiden and I had become nothing more than playthings in his eyes. Once he lost interest, it would be equivalent to us having received our death sentence. "You two worthless pests. You don't even deserve my sword," he sneered mercilessly. In the face of his jests, the Dragon Maiden remained unaffected. Our eyes met, and in her gaze, I saw steel determination. I mirrored the same resolve. "Let me ask one last time, do you still intend to defy this god's decree?" he said condescendingly. The Dragon Maiden reacted without hesitation. Her entire body began to radiate golden light as shimmering dragon scales grew over her hands, launching her directly at him at breakneck speed. The celestial being burst into loud laughter. "Good. First, let me feel your tender hand." He swung his massive hand, and the Dragon Maiden of the Yangtze countered. With a thunderous boom, their clash reverberated through the air. The Dragon Maiden pulled back, and the celestial being seized the opening to launch a swift assault. The two engaged in a wildly intense battle, each strike echoing like a deafening explosion. The celestial being was astonishingly fast, but the Dragon Maiden held her ground, battling with unmatched resolve. The fight was evenly matched, with no clear winner in sight. I drew the thunder bamboo sword, fixed my gaze on the celestial being, and, employing the 10 steps death technique, vanished in an instant. My head shall never fall into his hands. Today, I join forces with the Dragon Maiden of the Yangtze, we shall slay him. After a brief separation from their clash, the Dragon Maiden quickly regained her energy and matched the celestial being's movements strike for strike, even against his illusory copies. As the celestial being stepped back, I swiftly appeared behind him, aiming the thunder bamboo sword directly at his back. My attack was lightning fast, but the celestial being let out a contemptuous laugh, not even turning his head. You dare sneak attack a god? You're doomed! Before his words fully landed, he swung a backhanded blow my way. A powerful gust of wind surged toward me, its force like that of mountains being obliterated.